For years, I would leave things until the last minute, putting them off whilst convincing myself that it was because I thrive under pressure. But when I quit my 9-to-5 job back in 2021 to be a self-employed mindset strategist, I realized that something needed to change. Not only was I now my own boss, meaning that nothing would get done unless, well, I made myself do it, but I realized just how much time I was wasting by overthinking, procrastinating, distracting myself, and making excuses. And I knew that if I kept on going this way, then not only would I have a failed business, but I would also ultimately wind up losing respect for myself. So I got thinking about what I could do to change my relationship with work and with getting things done. I spoke to friends, I read books, I spent hours Googling and tried everything from time blocking to limiting the number of tasks I focused on each day. But nothing had much of an impact until I found the one question that I could ask myself that would literally turn procrastination into motivation in seconds. The mindset hack that I found completely changed my relationship with the things that I didn't want to do, and well, the things that I did but just put off. It made me feel better in myself. It made me feel more excited about my work. And pretty much overnight, my productivity skyrocketed. Picture this. You're faced with a task that isn't exactly thrilling, maybe even a bit challenging. Rather than fixating on the daunting aspects, you begin asking yourself a single question that instantly rewires your perspective on that task. How will you feel after you've done it? You see, I realized that I was putting so much focus on the part of the task that I didn't want to do. Having to speak to a stranger when making the phone call, having to walk 15 minutes in the rain to get to the gym, rearranging the entire lounge in order to film one video. And yeah, that's exactly what I had to do for this very video. That headspace didn't make me want to do it. It made me not want to do it even more. Instead, I put myself in the headspace of a runner. When lacing up for a jog, runners don't fixate themselves on the exertion that they're about to feel, or the pain that's gonna be in their legs in 2 days' time, or the fact that it's raining outside. Instead, they focus on the time they're going to get to themselves, the fresh air, the music they'll be listening to, how much stronger they'll get, or how much leaner they'll get as a result of this run, and ultimately, how great they're gonna feel once they've done it. They don't call it the runner's high for nothing. And the science itself backs this concept up too. Our brains are wired to seek rewards and to avoid discomfort. And so when we focus on the end result, that feeling of accomplishment and the surge of relief, we trigger our brain's reward centers, which primes us to perceive this task as a pathway to satisfaction rather than being an obstacle in our way. Because you see, when we were hunter-gatherers, when we had to preserve our energy so that if there was a prey or a predator, we could run away or run after it. And so we needed to conserve our energy. We didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. And so, yes, we preserved our physical energy, but we also preserved our mental energy. So when something comes along, a task that feels harder, feels challenging, feels boring even, when we tell ourselves that we don't want to do it, when we look at it as a task that we don't want to do, we're giving our brain an excuse to strongly believe that it should preserve the energy, that this task is going to take much needed energy from you. But the thing is you are not a hunter-gatherer anymore. You have an Aldi down the road. You have a roof over your head. You're watching this on a weird, mysterious screen that seems to be able to give you the answer for anything you could possibly ask, except for what is the meaning of life? So that is first of all a really important point for you to understand in this idea of procrastination and feeling guilty for not getting stuff done. You not wanting to do it makes sense. But now that you know that that's what the brain does, that's where we can use this hack, this question, this simple question to make your brain see it as something that's going to reward you. You don't need to preserve energy anymore. And by telling yourself that you do, you're not going to have the body that you want. You're not going to have the relationships that you want. You're not going to become more confident. You're not going to have the job that you want. You're not going to be as smart as you could be. So what is it that you want? What is it that you're procrastinating? And how can you see those things that you're procrastinating as good things? What part of those things that you don't want to do are going to feel good after you've done them? Once I had this realization, my productivity levels transformed overnight. Where before I would put something off for weeks, literally, I was now actually excited to get it done. Procrastination turned into motivation. How? Because I was diverting my focus from the reason why I didn't want to do it to the reason why I did. And this strategy isn't just a productivity hack, it's actually rooted in cognitive behavioral psychology. It also actually reminded me of a hack that I'd been taught when I used to be a gymnast. If I was ever stuck on a move, my coach would make the movement longer by adding in another move after the move that I was stuck on. Now you might think, why would you do that? If it was already too difficult to do, why would you add in another move to make it even harder? But actually, what she was doing by doing that was removing focus from the initial skill, the skill that I was struggling with. So take this sequence, for instance. I kept getting the footwork between the somersault and the round off jumbled, but as soon as I added a flick and a back tug, the footwork was no longer a problem, and I could do not just the initial skill, but the whole sequence, where before I would have thought it was impossible. So how is this relevant? Well, when you think about the aftermath of getting something done, rather than the weight of the task before you do it, then the task itself seems smaller and more of a stepping stone, rather than you hyping it up to be a big thing that you're anxious about, or maybe something small enough to ignore. So remember, you don't want to feel behind. You don't want to have the weight of this thing on your shoulders. What you really want is the feeling of relief, the adrenaline that you'll get once it's done, and the sense of pride. So take my advice and do 3 things. 1, give this video a big thumbs up if it was helpful, and click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. It takes mere seconds, but really helps. Number 2, let me know in the comments what tasks you find yourself procrastinating the most. And number 3, start implementing this strategy and seriously watch your productivity levels skyrocket. And with that, I'm Izzy Miller, and I'll see you next time. I appreciate you.